space explorers. We're space. We're in space explorers. We're in space. But we see something that is unusual. It's a moon. No, it's Earth. What? How is that unusual? We're space explorers. We're space explorers. We're space explorers. In space. We're space explorers. We're space explorers. 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 We're space explorers. We're space explorers. We're space explorers. We come across a window, it goes up and down like our life goes up and down as we grow up. But we see something unusual. Is it a bird? No, it's not a plane either. It's the moon. We're space explorers. 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 Space explorers. We're 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 just in space. We see something unusual. We're space explorers. Space explorers. We're 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 just in space. We're space explorers. 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 We're just in space. We see something unusual. Is the plane? No. Is the bird? No. It's the moon. We're space explorers. Space explorers. Space explorers. We're 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 in space, just seeing everything. We're in space. We're space explorers. 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 If we see something unusual, is it a bird? No. Is it a plane? No. It's the moon. We're space explorers.